What's going on, YouTube? It's BM151 here again. As always, I thank you guys for taking the time to hang out today. Happy Friday here from Crest Hill, Illinois. It's yet another rainy day like it was when I did the first video in this series. So, as you guys can see, this is part 2 to my ancestry results. We will be meeting my mother here shortly. Before we start the video, though, I just wanted to speak a little bit about a video that I uploaded in the spring of this year entitled My Results from Ancestry.com. In it, I spoke about having an Ancestry.com account. I spoke to the fact that you could send, for your DNA test, you send Ancestry $99, they mail you a DNA kit, you put a saliva swab into a tube up to a certain point, you mix it with the solution that they give you, you mail it off to their lab, and they have the results for you in about 6 to 8 weeks. I was pretty lucky in that I got my results in about week 4, and at that time, I shared my results with you guys. I tried to speak a little bit about where I thought I was from for the most part, and then I gave you all of my results, and what I tried to do was to convey something historical or topical about each of my countries or areas of origin, and I hope I was informative. The one thing, since I posted that video though, I've done some further research, and I want to kind of clear something up a little bit. There was a point in my video where I spoke of my Western European heritage, and I stated that we were surprised that we were only 9% Western European because of my maternal grandfather's ancestors having come, for the most part, from the west part of Germany, and Germany in many ways is the definition of Western Europe. Now, when I said we, I was kind of inferring that my siblings and I would have the exact same stretches of DNA, and I have come to find out that that is not the case. The only way that that could be possible is if you had an identical twin in your family. I happen to have no identical twins in my family, and I have 4 siblings. So what would likely happen if my siblings were to take a DNA test? They would be showing all of the regions that you see on my test in front of you right now, more than likely, but they'd probably be varying in percentages. Like, for example, you guys can see that I'm 21% Irish. My sister may not be 21% Irish. She may be 17 or 25%, 15% Greek or Italian. She may be more or lesser than that. So that's just to clear that up. Some people get puzzled by that too, though. They think like, well, if you came from the same parents, why are you not sharing the exact same DNA? And the reason for that is that you're one person individually being judged against jillions of chromosomes and DNA and genetic information and genomes that have distributed throughout the years. And I'd come to find out that DNA does not distribute in a linear fashion. It does so in more of a mixed bag. And I'm probably not doing the greatest job of explaining this, you guys. So if you don't get what I'm trying to get at about this, I did leave a link in the description of the video for you to furthermore look into this. But I just wanted to clear that up. Hopefully I did. So without any further ado, we're going to meet my mother. She's going to share with you what she thought she was, what her actual results were, the pleasant surprises, and then some of the things that were just puzzling. So here we go.
Hi, everybody.
So before you took the test, what did you think you were?
I grew up thinking I was German, and that's not a play off Kyle, but that is actually the truth. So,
if you guys have seen the Kyle commercial in Ancestry, those of you who have will know what we're talking about. So
it's not like we dressed up in lederhosen or anything, but I thought my father was mostly German and my mother was mostly Italian, and it turns out some of that was true, but for the most part, I'm different things than I thought I was growing up.
So what do you have in the lead?
In the lead is Eastern European at 36%, and I believe that comes from my mother's Polish side. She had a surname that was, we thought, Italian, and it turned out to be Polish. And there's some lines there where Germany and Poland were kind of crossed over in a certain time frame. So, but anyway, it turns out she's mostly Polish, so that is where my 36% comes from. So I was really surprised about that.
Real quick. Folks, last time what I forgot to mention is that when the test gives you the results, sometimes it just does general areas of Europe, Asia, Africa, wherever you happen to be from. So Eastern European, and I spoke of the Polish side, my mother just did too. But just for anybody who's new to this and wants to take the test, when you get Eastern European results, that actually covers a lot of countries. That would be Poland, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Austria, Russia, Hungary, Slovenia, the Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Lithuania, Latvia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Croatia. So
that is what I consider my Polish side. Next, we have Great Britain at 20%.
Great Britain is Scotland, England, and Wales, to those who don't know.
So my father had what we believe was a German surname. Now I'm thinking it was more Great Britain, because I ended up to be 20% of that, which there is, I believe, nothing on my mother's side. So I believe my father was actually 40% from Great Britain. So that was a real surprise. To me, he was always what I considered the stubborn German. So from the results of my test, I'm actually a very small percentage of that, but we'll get to that in a few more minutes. So next, we have Scandinavian. I'm 20% Scandinavian, and I believe that is mostly from Denmark. And I was told when I was growing up that on my father's side that there was some Danish. So that makes sense. So that would make him 40% if I'm 20, because again, I don't believe my mother is any percentage of Scandinavian. So that kind of makes sense. If you look at some of my ancestors on my father's side, they're very pretty people. So I think that's where the Scandinavian, the high cheekbones, the bright blue eyes, and kind of fair skinned and tall. So that's where my Scandinavian comes in.
And just again, folks, that's Denmark, that's Norway, that's Sweden. That encompasses Scandinavia.
So next we have Italy, and I believe that's also Greece. So 16%, and that I actually thought I was more of that. So again, I think that is from my mother. And when you look at my mom, she does have that kind of Italian skin coloring, that Mediterranean. So and that makes sense. I believe I took on her coloring. Actually, I thought I was more Italian, but the 16% I believe is going to be mostly from her side.
And I got to chime in on that too, folks, because if you guys remember, I was 15% Italian, my mother only being percentage more than me, which means my dad has to have at least a little bit. I know I just spoke earlier about DNA not distributing evenly, but he's got to have some, so hopefully eventually we'll have a video with him too. So.
Okay, and then next on the list is 4% Ireland, and I was also told that when I was growing up. I believe my ethnicities to be German, Italian, English, Irish, and Danish.
I didn't think you had any Irish at all, though.
Yeah, it's a small percentage, so there was some Irish in there, which I believe is from my dad's side. And I'll get to the irony of all this, because I married men that I thought also were different things than they were. So the next is Western European, 1%, which, go ahead. That would include Germany and...
That's Germany, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and Liechtenstein.
So that's really funny because, again, we thought my dad was all German, the typical stubborn German guy that liked his beer. So, and really, if I'm 1%, that would mean he would be less, or a little more than 1%, 2% maybe. Possibly. We're still trying to figure out this, which will be probably better explained. We're actually giving my mom a birthday present of a DNA kit. So we're kind of excited about that. So we can put together more of the pieces since Brian and I have already done our DNA testing. So next on the list, I believe, is Western Asia. And I think that's, as Brian probably explained, I'm 2% from that region, and that is the Caucasus.
Yeah, and I was again surprised by that too, because that would mean I was 96% European, 4% West Asian Caucasus, and you'd be 98% European.
Right.
And then 2% that.
And so what is next? 1% Iberian Peninsula, and that is the Spanish region.
And I had 5. So that's Spain and Portugal.
So again, Brian must take on more of that from his father. And then less than 1% was Finland and Northwest Russia.
And I had 1% Finnish Northwestern Russian as well, so not too surprising.
Right. It all makes sense now, but I was thinking I was more German than I actually was, and I was thinking
I was more European in general too, but that's why it was a pleasant surprise to take this test.
So just a couple of little side notes. This is kind of funny because my first marriage, I was married to a man that was, I believe, mostly Irish, which I'm pretty sure that still stands correct. And I didn't believe I was any Irish.
My dad.
But It turns out I was 4%, but then he has a Slovakian surname, so I was always getting the questions about that. And then I had what I thought was a German surname, and really a very small percent German. So my second marriage, I'm married to a Polish man, and I'm telling people I have a Polish name, but I'm not at all Polish.
But I'm not at all Polish.
But and here that's my
36%
right,
Eastern
and
European.
that's my main ethnicity. So it's just kind of ironic. You think you're something and you're not. And this was kind of a really fun test of just tracing back the origins. And I'm really excited for my mom to take the test because, again, I said my father is deceased, so she's really the one remaining piece that Ryan and I can kind of put together a few more pieces of the puzzle. It's been kind of a fun experience
yes,
doing all
and
of
I'll
this.
reiterate that again, too. It's been very fun. I recommend people do this, you guys, if you can afford to do so. Hopefully this is just part 2 in a series of videos that I will be doing with every family member. So we've already mentioned my father, mentioned my grandmother, so hopefully you guys will see them soon, too. Thanks again for hanging, guys. If you want to do this, I wish you happy hunting, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks.